Hello, everybody. This is the second episode of Ike's Political Minute, and today we will be talking about the Republican dream scenario in the 2020 Senate elections. Now, I think that in their dream scenario, Republicans would win anywhere where they've had a candidate that's come close to winning a statewide election in a certain state, and if they have, they will win that state in their dream scenario. And I will include other factors as well, such as how famous this Republican is and how likely they are to gain momentum in these coming years. And I will go through that as I color in these states from west to east. Now, I will start out with Alaska. Now, Alaska, I think, would easily go to Dan Sullivan by a safe margin in the Republican dream scenario because if you look at this race, he defeated Mark Begich narrowly in 2014, but keep in mind that Mark Begich was the incumbent, and Dan Sullivan is not too unpopular if you look at his approval ratings, and he could easily keep his seat and not really have too much of a challenge in his party's dream scenario. Now in Oregon, I think that Newt Buehler would narrowly edge this race out in the Republicans' dream scenario because in their dream scenario, Jeff Merkley would probably run for president and leave an open seat in the state of Oregon, so Newt Buehler could probably get the job done and flip that seat red. Now, I think that Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming would all easily go to the GOP in their dream scenario. Along with the state of Arizona, I actually think that Republicans have still maintained quite a strong presence here, winning the governor's race here by double digits, and I think that they could easily pull it off in this state. However, in Colorado, I'm not so sure. I think that Colorado has been swinging hard to the left, and it would take a lot for those dynamics to change, but yet, since this is the GOP's dream scenario, I will make Colorado likely a Republican, because, keep in mind, Cory Gardner won in Colorado even after it had gone to Obama by a significant margin in 2012, and in New Mexico, I actually think that that state would also be likely a Republican because imagine if Susana Martinez ran for the Senate seat. She was the first Latina governor of a state, and she was Republican. I think that she could very easily excite Republicans here and flip that Senate seat. And I think that all of these red wall states would easily go to the GOP in their dream scenario because keep in mind that this is already Republican heartland, so it would take a lot, and I mean a lot, to flip these states. And I also think that the South is Republican heartland, and that is why I'm going to give all of these states as safe for the GOP. And that includes Doug Jones in Alabama. I mean, he only won because Roy Moore was such a terrible candidate, and also I think that North Carolina would be safe here because the Republicans have maintained such a strong presence here because it's consistently labeled as a swing state, but time and time again it goes Republican, and Kentucky and West Virginia, they would both easily go safe Republican in their dream scenario. And that's considering that both of these states are coal country, and the Republicans are already doing a fantastic job with appealing to these kind of voters. And Iowa, I also think that Iowa would go to the GOP in their dream scenario, because if you look at the 2016 election, Donald Trump won Iowa by 10 points, and pretty soon Republicans could get it to a safe margin. And keep in mind that in the blue wave year of 2018, Kim Reynolds held on to the governorship here, even though everybody thought that it would go to Fred Hubbell. And I think that the GOP is really able to appeal to the voters in Iowa, and I think that they could hold on to Iowa with an iron fist. And in Minnesota, I think that Democrats have still maintained a pretty strong presence here, but if you look at it, the state has gotten pretty close, and I would say that Minnesota would probably be lean Republican if any good generic Republican ran for the office. And I would say the same thing about Illinois, because if you look at Illinois, Dick Durbin is not that popular of an incumbent. A competitive election was expected in 2014, and the GOP didn't do it. But keep in mind that this is their dream scenario, and with the slight unpopularity of Dick Durbin compared to an awesome Republican candidate, I think that they could get the job done and flip this seat red. Now in Michigan, I think that Michigan would be likely Republican because John James came really close to defeating Debbie Stabenow in a blue wave year. Keep that in mind. I think that he's a very strong candidate and he could make that state likely Republican in their dream scenario. And Virginia has also taken a strong turn to the left. But keep in mind that Mark Warner narrowly edged out Ed Gillespie in 2014 in the Senate race here, and I think that under the right conditions he could get the job done and flip the seat red. Now in Delaware, I don't really see any strong Republican presence here. The only Republican at-large representative was ousted in the red wave year of 2010, so I would actually say that Delaware is likely Democrat. Oh, and I forgot to fill in the vice presidency. That would easily go to the GOP in their dream scenario, with Trump being reelected. And in New Jersey, I think that Bob Hugin could learn from his mistakes in 2018, and he could unseat Cory Booker if Cory Booker decided to make a bid for the presidency and leave that seat open, which he likely would in the GOP's dream scenario. And in Rhode Island, also, like Delaware, I really don't see any strong Republican presence here. I mean, in the future it could flip Republican, I just don't see that now. And Lincoln Chafee, the only high-profile Republican to have won statewide here, he switched to the Democratic Party, and that tells you something, so I actually think that, as of now, Rhode Island would be safe Democrat. However, I think that in Massachusetts, if Scott Brown ran for his own seat, he could win by a likely margin. And keep that in mind, because Scott Brown was originally leading by 10 points in the earliest polls taken for the Massachusetts 2012 Senate race, and I think that the only real reason that he lost was because Obama had presidential-level turnout, so in their dream scenario, he could easily get the job done and flip that seat red. And I think that goes the same for New Hampshire. I mean, if Sununu decided to run, Sununu won by double digits, and considering that New Hampshire is a swing state already, he could easily bolster turnout and actually make this safe. And I think that this goes the same for Maine. Susan Collins has consistently been popular here. She even won in the bluest of blue wave years of 2008, and I think that she could definitely win by a safe margin in this state, in the Republicans' dream scenario. Thank you everybody for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all later.